Chapter 16. Dante ran down the hall, looking for Panzer. He had no idea where to look, and the big man was faster than Dante would have imagined. He went to Panzer's room first, knocked, and waited for a few seconds before moving on. Then he headed downstairs. Making his way to the ground floor, he headed for the pool area. It was after 1 a.m., and nearly the entire hotel seemed to be asleep. He passed a few costumed people along the way, but for the most part, the convention was dead. The Araya wing had closed a few hours ago and wouldn't open again until 11 in the morning. Dante walked into the pool area and found it empty. He started back toward the elevators when he saw Panzer walk into the Rigelia wing, holding a large suitcase. The giant was inside before Dante could call him. Why did Panzer go into the construction site? Dante opened the door and stepped in. The room looked a lot like the wing across the hall, only a lot messier and with a lower ceiling. The large area was dimly lit with a few lamps, and partitions were set up throughout. "Sorry it had to be like this, Cody," he heard Panzer say. Dante rounded one of the partitions and saw something that didn't make sense to him. Panzer opened the suitcase and dumped something into a pit. Whatever it was seemed fairly large. Panzer, breathing heavily, looked around the area. His gaze settled on Dante and his eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, Dante, you weren't supposed to see this." Dante, still stunned by what he just saw, turned and ran the other way. He heard Panzer's heavy steps right behind him. Dante screamed as he tried to get through the maze of construction equipment and partitions. He turned right and came to a dead end. When he spun around, he ran into the waiting arms of a giant. "Why didn't you go after your friend?" Taylor asked Garth. He shrugged. "I'm sure he just had an errand to run. He'll probably be back soon." "Aren't you curious about why he stormed out?" "No." Scout grinned at the two across the table as they played another round of dead zombies. She always found it fun to watch her friends mingle. Granted, she'd only met Garth today and didn't consider him a friend yet, but Taylor seemed to like talking to him. Garth rolled the dice and made his move. He was in the lead and was most likely going to reach the haven first. As she watched him make his move, Scout wondered what had happened to Panzer. She thought of the blue-haired girl in the pool. She wouldn't have been surprised if that had been Panzer's sister. Or maybe the giant simply thought so as well. Maybe it was the late hour or the fact she'd been up since 6 a.m., but Scout felt a little delirious. Maybe Cody had just fallen and Dante thought he was dead. Maybe the figure she saw at the bottom of the escalator and in the elevator was just some random cosplayer who thought it would be cool to dress like the killer from last summer's #1 local news story. It wasn't bad taste, but it wasn't against the law. Besides, if there was another killer on the loose, he or she would have been more obvious. That's how it usually worked out in the movies. Scout thought of the sequel to her favorite horror movie, and how it took place on a college campus. The killers made their intentions very plain to everyone, including the heroine. Scout had been chased around a few times, and couldn't help but think of herself as the heroine of last summer's drama. It was her best friend, after all, who turned out to be the killer. Unless this new killer didn't want to draw attention before the weekend was over. Maybe he or she had something planned. "Your turn," a voice said, breaking up her thoughts. She looked ahead. "What?" "I said it's your turn," Taylor repeated. "What are you thinking about over there?" Nothing? Scout rolled the dice and moved her character. She was the second closest to the haven and could possibly beat Garth if she was lucky. So, Duke said to Garth, is your buddy Panzer, like, gay or something? Garth shrugged. I don't know what he is. He doesn't like labels. Is he into guys? Why? Garth asked, raising an eyebrow. Would you like me to hook you up? Scout guffawed. Duke shot her a look that shut her up quickly. I was just wondering. He and Dante seemed to hit it off, but I couldn't tell if they were flirting or not. Not all gay people want to hook up with each other, Taylor said, a little heat in her voice. Well, not you and Scout, that's for sure, Duke muttered. Excuse me? Taylor crossed her arms. I mean, like, how you two are just friends? She uncrossed her arms. Oh, exactly. Scout and I are just friends. It's possible Panzer and Dante are just kindred spirits or something. They're both taller than just about anybody at this convention. Except August Dickerson, Scout added. He seems to be the same height. There was a long, awkward silence as the four young people sat at the table, drinking beer. And then Duke said, But before that... Before that what? Taylor asked quickly. Well, do you deny you and Scout hooked up before deciding to be friends? Scout didn't know what to say. She and Garth looked back and forth between Taylor and Duke. I don't see how that's any of your business, Taylor said slowly. But I met Scout right after breaking up with someone I loved. I was a little vulnerable. So Scout was your rebound? Taylor stared at him for a few tense seconds. Duke looked at Scout. Did you know you were a rebound at the time? Scout was about to shake her head, but decided to say nothing at all. Duke looked at Taylor again. Don't you think that was a little shitty? I remember when Scout met you. She really liked you and thought you two were going somewhere. And then you pulled that shit. So, all gay people are deceitful sex fiends? Taylor asked. No, Duke replied. Just you. Taylor got up and headed for the hotel door. Scout started to stand, but Taylor stopped her. Then she left the room. Scout sat back down. I think I should talk to her, Garth said, surprising Scout. She clearly has an issue with you two. I think she just needs an impartial ear to listen. He stood and walked out the door. Wow, Duke said admiringly. He's very astute. Scout was fuming. Shut up before I knock those hipster glasses off your face. Bitch, these are prescription. Scout laughed. She couldn't help it.